Hello again, dear friend. Come sit with me a while. Let's imagine ourselves on a quiet porch this morning, the kind where the floorboards creak just a little when you move your rocking chair and the soft clink of a spoon stirs your tea. There's a warm mug between your hands, the birds are waking up in the trees, and a gentle breeze stirs the chimes above the doorway. All around us, the garden stretches in sleepy green sighs, some blossoms blooming, others just beginning. And right there beside the steps, a rusty old watering can, a cracked teacup, a wooden chair missing one spindle. Most folks might see junk, but not us. You and I, we've lived long enough to know that beauty doesn't always come in shiny packages or with a big price tag. Sometimes it comes in the form of a dented mailbox or a broken dish. It comes in things worn by weather, softened by time, and made beautiful again with care. Today, we're not chasing perfection. We're finding joy in small things, in second chances, in that wonderful feeling of giving something old a brand new life, just like we've done in one way or another so many times before. You don't need youth or money to make your space bloom. You need heart, a little imagination, and maybe a few odds and ends hiding in the back of your garage or shed. So pour another cup of tea, settle into that cozy spot, and join me as we walk through 35 gentle, soulful garden ideas that turn forgotten junk into joyful little treasures. Your garden is about to smile in ways it never has before. Let's begin. Remember those old mailboxes we used to see at the end of long gravel driveways? The kind with a little red flag that squeaked when you raised it, maybe leaning just a bit, rust creeping in around the corners. There's something nostalgic about them. A mailbox used to mean connection, a birthday card, a letter from a friend, a catalog you didn't order but enjoyed flipping through anyway. And now that old mailbox might be sitting in your garage forgotten. Or maybe you spotted one at a flea market or thrift store and wondered if it had any use left. Well, friend, it does. With just a little imagination, that dented mailbox can become the most cheerful greeter on your block. Start by giving it a good rinse. You don't have to scrub it perfect, just enough to clear away the dust and cobwebs. Then give it a coat of spray paint or outdoor paint in a color that makes you smile. Maybe robin's egg blue, maybe soft lavender, maybe classic barn red. Add a few small drainage holes in the bottom with a nail or drill, and you're halfway there. Now for the fun part, fill it with potting soil and tuck in some of your favorite trailing flowers. Pansies, petunias, lobelia, or ivy work wonderfully. These blooms will spill out like a floral waterfall every time someone walks past. Set your blooming mailbox near the gate by the porch steps, or even on a garden table if lifting is hard on the knees. It doesn't take strength, just spirit. And every time you pass it, you'll be reminded that beauty doesn't come from the store. It can bloom from the very things others toss aside. That little mailbox still has a message to deliver. Welcome. This home is full of life. And just like you, it's still useful, still charming, still full of stories. Some things are too beautiful to throw away, like the last bloom of summer or the gentle curl of dried lavender hanging upside down in the kitchen window. They remind us that even as seasons change, there's still beauty in what remains. If you've ever gathered dried herbs, flowers, or even autumn leaves, you know the feeling. They don't shout. They whisper. And today we're going to let those whispers speak through a homemade wreath, one that tells the story of your garden and your seasons. Start with something simple for the base. You might have an old embroidery hoop lying around, or a wire hanger you can bend into a circle. Even a grapevine wreath from the thrift store will do just fine. The shape doesn't need to be perfect. In fact, a little unevenness adds character. Now look around at what you already have. Dried lavender eucalyptus, sprigs pine cones, or wheat stalks from last fall. Maybe some faded roses from your birthday bouquet, or rosemary cuttings hung to dry near the stove. Tie small bunches together using twine or floral wire and then gently fasten them around the frame. Work in layers overlapping as you go. There's no rush here, just the soft rhythm of your hands moving, wrapping, remembering. Let the colors guide you. In spring, you might choose soft greens and pale florals. In summer, go bold with dried sunflowers or zinnias. In fall, warm oranges and grasses. Winter, try pine berries or even cinnamon sticks. Hang your wreath on the front door, on a fence post, or even above your garden bench. Let it move in the breeze. Let it tell the story of your hands, your harvest, your home. And when someone asks where you bought it, just smile and say, I didn't buy it. I saved it. From my own garden, from a season that passed too quickly. Because when we create with what we have, we don't just decorate, we preserve moments that would otherwise be forgotten. That wreath is more than decoration. It's memory made visible. You know what it's like waiting for a delivery or for guests, and they drive right past the house because the address numbers are too small or faded to see. And as we get older, let's be honest, even we don't see them quite as clearly as we used to. But what if your house numbers could be more than practical? What if they became part of your garden's charm? Bold, beautiful, and full of personality. Oversized address numbers are one of those small touches that make a big difference. You don't need to go out and buy anything new unless you want to. Take a walk through a flea market, a thrift store, or even your own shed. You might find old house numbers from a past renovation, vintage signs with metal lettering or wooden boards just waiting to be useful again. Once you've got your numbers, whether they're wood, metal, or plastic, it's time to play. You can repaint them in cheerful shades to match your flowers or leave them in their weathered state for a rustic, time-worn charm. Mount them on a garden fence, the side of your porch, or even a salvaged piece of barnwood or a painted shutter. Don't worry about making it perfect. In fact, a little unevenness or fading can make them feel more like part of your home's story. If you have arthritis or trouble using tools, ask a neighbor or family member to help with the mounting. It's a one-time task, and the joy it brings lasts season after season. What I love most about this idea is how welcoming it feels. The numbers aren't just practical. They're a quiet way of saying, "Here I am, this is home." For the mailman, the friend bringing cookies, or the grandkids coming to visit, those numbers stand out with warmth and clarity. And in a world that moves so fast sometimes, it's good to make it easier for people to find their way to you. Big numbers, big heart, and a simple reminder that the most important things in life should never be hard to see. Do you remember the front doors of our childhood homes? They were rarely grand, but they always made you feel welcome. Maybe it was a wreath, maybe the smell of something cooking, or maybe it was just that old doormat with a simple message. Come on in. A cheerful doormat is like a smile for your front porch. And with a little creativity and hardly any cost, you can make one that feels as personal as a handwritten note. Start with a plain choir mat, the kind you can find at Dollar Tree, Walmart, or even tucked in your garage. If you don't have one, you can find them at most hardware or thrift stores for just a few dollars. Then you'll need a little outdoor acrylic paint, a sponge brush, and a stencil. You can buy stencils online, but it's just as fun and cheaper to make your own. Take a piece of cardboard or plastic sheet, draw your design or letters, and carefully cut them out. Tape it to the mat so it doesn't slide, then use the sponge brush to dab on the paint gently. Don't rush, the paint doesn't need to be perfect, just kind. Some ideas for what to stencil. You could write a warm, "Welcome home," a cheeky "Wipe your paws," or something reflective like "Bloom where you're planted." One of my favorites simply says, "Joy lives here." If hands are shaky or eyesight isn't what it once was, keep it simple. Even a painted border or a few stamped flowers can bring life to a tired old mat. And if kneeling is tricky, try placing the mat on a table or sawhorse so you can work standing up. Once it's dry, place it proudly at your front door. Every time you or someone you love steps over it, they'll be greeted with a little reminder that this house, this garden, is filled with joy. Because sometimes beauty doesn't knock. It's already waiting at the threshold. Word count 391. Do you have an old picture frame lying around somewhere? Maybe it once held a graduation photo, a family snapshot, or a pressed flower from long ago. The glass might be cracked, the paint chipped, but the frame itself still holds the memory of something cherished. Instead of letting it collect dust in the back of a closet, why not give it a second chance this time, as a sign in your garden? This project is gentle on the hands and full of heart. Start by removing the glass and giving the frame a quick sanding. You don't have to erase the years, just smooth it enough so it won't splinter. Then paint it any color that brings you joy. A soft sage green, sunflower yellow, or even a classic whitewash all work beautifully outdoors. Let it dry while you gather a backing. For the sign insert, you can use anything lightweight and sturdy, a piece of wood, a scrap of cork board, or even a small chalkboard panel if you'd like to change the message with the seasons. Attach it to the back with a bit of glue or small nails. Now the best part. What will your sign say? You could paint or write something sweet like, "Nana's garden. Herbs and hugs. Please talk to the plants. They like it. here grows love. Use stencils, a paint pen, or your own handwriting even if it's a little wobbly. That just makes it more you. If bending is tough, try making the sign while sitting at a table, then ask a neighbor or loved one to hang or stake it where you want it. Place it by your herb bed near your front step or on the garden gate. It doesn't just tell visitors where they are, it tells them who you are. Someone who sees beauty, who believes in joy, and who still plants little signs of life wherever they go. Because your garden is more than soil and seeds. It's a reflection of you, hand-tended, heart-made, and full of stories. There's something almost magical about a garden path, especially one that invites you to slow down, breathe deep, and wander gently. For many of us, those winding paths aren't just ways to get from one end of the garden to the other. They're little journeys, moments carved out between flowers and ferns where we can pause, listen to the breeze, and feel the quiet joy of being present. If you've ever dreamed of creating that kind of peaceful stroll, a pebble and moss path might be just the thing. And don't worry, this project is more about placement than perfection, and it can be done slowly, one stone at a time. Begin by choosing your stepping stones. Flat rocks, pavers, or even repurposed slate tiles work well. Lay them out loosely where you want your path to go, maybe from the porch to the bird bath or winding through a bed of herbs. There's no need to dig deeply or lift heavy loads. Just clear enough space to nestle each stone slightly into the earth so it doesn't wobble when stepped on. Now comes the soft part. Between those stones, tuck in small patches of moss or low-growing ground cover like creeping thyme or baby tears. If you don't have moss already, you can often find some in shaded corners of your own yard, along tree roots or under a bush. Gently lift a bit and transplant it between the stones, giving it a good watering to help it settle in. What you'll end up with is a walkway that looks like it stepped right out of a storybook, soft green and full of quiet charm. And if kneeling is tricky, use a garden pad or a low stool. There's no rush here. The path will wait for you. As the moss grows in and the stones settle, you'll find yourself walking slower, noticing more the shape of a leaf, the sound of a bee, the way the sunlight dapples through the trees. It's not just a path. It's a reminder that getting there isn't always the point. Sometimes, dear friend, the wandering is the destination. Words have a way of lingering, don't they? A kind phrase, a whispered prayer, a favorite poem, they stay with us like little lanterns in the heart. And in the garden where silence speaks and beauty blooms quietly, words can become part of the path itself. That's why I love the idea of a brick poetry trail, a walkway made not just of bricks, but of thoughts. Gentle ones, kind ones, messages that greet your feet and your soul as you walk among the flowers. To begin, gather some old bricks. Maybe they're left over from a past project or salvaged from a neighbor's cleanup. Even mismatched or weathered ones are perfect. They carry a history that gives this trail its charm. Give them a gentle scrub with a brush to clear off any dirt or moss. Next, decide what words you want to bring to life. You might choose a short poem, a line of scripture, or simple affirmations like, "Peace, hope. Be still, this moment matters." Use outdoor acrylic paint or a permanent marker to write one word on each brick. And don't worry about perfect handwriting. In fact, a slightly shaky hand makes each brick feel more like a handwritten note than a printed label. If your hands need a rest, take breaks. There's no rush. This is your rhythm, your retreat. Once your bricks are ready, lay them along an existing path, cluster them in a quiet garden corner, or space them out like stepping stones. You don't have to dig, just nestle them into the soil or mulch gently. Over time, the earth will hold them in place. Every step becomes a meditation, every word a soft reminder. And on the days when you feel a little tired or tangled in thought, you can go out to your garden, follow the trail, and remember your life is full of meaning. Your journey is full of grace. And sometimes the words we need most are the ones we leave for ourselves to find. Have you ever picked up a smooth stone while out on a walk? One that just felt right in your hand? Not too big, not too small, with edges worn soft by time. There's something comforting about them. Steady, simple, and when given a touch of color and a few gentle words, they become tiny works of art. Painting stones for your garden is one of the easiest, most soothing ways to add a personal touch to your outdoor space. It doesn't require any heavy lifting, no tools or fancy supplies, just a few pebbles, some paint, and your imagination. Start by gathering a handful of smooth, flat stones. You can find them at the edge of a nearby stream in a landscaping pile, or even at a garden center. Give them a good rinse and let them dry in the sun. Now comes the fun part. With a few acrylic paints or paint pens, write whatever feels good to your spirit. You can mark the names of your herbs or flowers, rosemary, lavender, thyme, or choose words that make you smile. Joy, rest, keep going. If your hands tremble or your letters turn out uneven, that's more than okay. It makes each stone uniquely yours. You can also add little flourishes, a vine, a sun, a tiny heart. There's no right or wrong here. Just you and your garden speaking in color and quiet messages. Once dry, place the stones throughout your space. Nestle one beside the tomato plant, another near the bird bath, or even under the rose bush where someone might discover it. You might tuck one near your favorite chair, a reminder every time you sit that peace is close. And who knows, a visitor might see one and carry the message home in their heart. Because sometimes we don't need grand signs or perfect scripts. We just need a few small stones that say what matters most. In a world that can feel loud and rushed, these painted stones are a soft voice. A whisper that says, here in this garden, in this life, beauty lives in the little things. Do you have an old plate tucked away in a cabinet, one too chipped to use but too lovely to throw out? Maybe it was part of your first dish set, or maybe you found it years ago at a yard sale and just couldn't leave it behind. There's a story in that porcelain, a memory in every little crack, and now it can become part of your garden path. Turning old plates into stepping stones is a beautiful way to preserve those fragile treasures and give them new purpose right underfoot. To begin, gather your materials. You'll need a few plates, whole or broken is just fine, a mold like a shallow cake pan or plastic plant saucer, and some quick-setting concrete like Quick-Set or similar. Give the mold a light spray of cooking oil so your stone will come out easily. Pour the mixed concrete into the mold until it's about 1 to 2 inches thick. While the surface is still wet, gently press the broken plate pieces into the top. You can create a simple border, a mosaic flower, or even just a swirl of colors. The arrangement doesn't need to be exact. This isn't about perfection. It's about memory and care. Once it dries, usually overnight, pop the stone out of the mold and set it gently into your garden path. If bending is difficult, ask a neighbor or family member to help place it. Even just 1 or 2 stones can add a special sparkle to a walkway or flower bed. These plate stones don't just catch the sunlight, they catch stories. When you see them, you'll remember the hands that passed those plates at family dinners, the laughter that echoed around those tables, the quiet moments over tea. Each step becomes a way of walking through your own history, and every crack and chip becomes part of a larger beauty. Because nothing is wasted, dear friend. Not time, not dishes, not even us. We're still walking, still creating, and still surrounded by pieces of love we can put back together again, one careful step at a time. If you've ever held an old glass bottle up to the light, you know how it can catch the sun just right, turning even a plain piece of glass into something glowing and magical. Green, blue, amber, or clear, those bottles often end up in the recycling bin or tucked in a box. But with a bit of care, they can become one of the most beautiful features in your garden. Glass bottle path borders are a surprisingly simple way to turn what others might toss out into sparkling gems along your walkway. And best of all, this project requires little more than patience and gentle hands. Start by gathering empty bottles. Wine bottles, soda bottles, even old vinegar or oil bottles work perfectly. Choose ones in a variety of colors if you'd like to add extra charm. Wash them well, peel off the labels, and let them dry completely. Then, using gloves for safety, you'll place the bottles upside down into the soil along the edge of a garden path or flower bed. There's no need for tools or digging deep holes. Just push each one firmly into the soil until it feels steady. You can place them side by side for a bold, colorful border or space them out for a more delicate touch. When the morning sun rises or the afternoon light filters through the trees, the glass will catch and reflect it, casting soft little glimmers that dance along your garden trail. It's like having jewels tucked right into the earth. This is a wonderful project for anyone who prefers to sit while working. Lay out your bottles ahead of time, then take your time placing them one by one. There's no rush, just rhythm, just beauty emerging slowly. And perhaps best of all, this idea keeps waste out of the landfill and gives something once discarded a second life in your sanctuary. It's a gentle reminder that, like us, things don't lose their worth with age. They only become more radiant when placed where they can shine. Let your path sparkle, dear friend. You've earned a garden that glows. There's nothing quite like settling into a soft chair in the garden, tea in hand, and watching the world move slowly around you. But over time, outdoor cushions can start to fade, tear, or lose their charm. Before you think of tossing them, let's give them a second life with fabric that tells a brighter story. Making your own outdoor pillow covers is not only simple, it's deeply satisfying. And the best part, you don't need to sew a single stitch if you don't want to. Start by looking around your home. That cheerful old tablecloth with the faded sunflowers, those patterned curtains you packed away last spring. Even a large cotton scarf or a colorful sheet can become the fabric you need. Choose materials that are weather-resistant if possible, but if you're using indoor fabric, simply bring the pillows in after a rain. Now, if sewing isn't your thing, here's an easy wrap and tie method. Lay your fabric out flat. Place your cushion in the center and wrap it like a present. Tie the ends in a neat knot, either in the front or hidden in back. You can use ribbon twine or even strips of the same fabric for a rustic look. No zippers, no fuss, just softness and charm. If you do enjoy sewing, you can quickly stitch up a few simple envelope-style covers. They slip right over the pillow and close in the back. Either way, you're refreshing something you already have and saving money in the process. When you place those newly dressed cushions back on your bench or chair, something changes. The whole corner comes to life again. A splash of color here, a cozy nook there, and suddenly your garden isn't just a place to grow plants. It's a place to rest, to dream, to simply be. And every time you sink into that cushion, you'll know you made this beauty with your own hands. You brought comfort into the world with just a little fabric and a whole lot of heart. That's the joy of upcycling softness for the body, warmth for the soul. There's something about a beach towel that just feels like summer. Maybe it's the bold stripes, the tropical prints, or the soft texture that holds a bit of sun in its threads. And while they're usually seen at the pool or the shore, beach towels can also bring a fresh splash of life to your garden seating. If your outdoor chairs are looking a little tired, maybe the cushions are faded, or the metal frame's too hot to sit on, a simple beach towel can be just the thing to bring back their charm. No sewing, no measuring, just a little creative draping. Take a few patterned beach towels, preferably ones with vibrant colors or cheerful motifs. Floral, nautical, or abstract, whatever makes you smile. Wash and dry them first so they're soft and fresh. Then drape them over your outdoor lounge chairs, benches, or even folding chairs. Fold the edges under for a neater look, or let them hang casually for a breezy, relaxed feel. You can tuck in the corners or secure them with clothespins or safety pins if you like a snug fit. And if the towel's long enough, you might even wrap it around the backrest and seat like a slipcover. The best part, they're washable, replaceable, and incredibly easy on the budget. On a sunny day, they protect your furniture from fading. On a cooler evening, they double as light blankets. And when guests drop by unexpectedly, you've got colorful cushioned seating that feels welcoming and clean. It's a small change, but you'll notice how it transforms the space. Suddenly, your garden looks more like a getaway, your own little retreat, just a few steps from the kitchen door. And as you lean back into that soft fabric, hearing the birds sing and the breeze rustle through the trees, you'll realize it didn't take much to turn your corner of the world into something beautiful. Just a towel, just a chair, just a bit of love for the life you've made. Because joy often comes not from buying more, but from using what we already have in new, delightful ways. Sometimes the most charming pieces in a garden aren't the ones we buy new. They're the ones we rescue from the shed dust off and give a second chance. If you've ever stumbled upon an old wooden crate, maybe one that once held fruit tools or bottles, you're already halfway to creating your own rustic outdoor coffee table. This is one of those projects that doesn't ask much of you physically, but gives so much in return. It brings character, function, and a cozy gathering place right into the heart of your garden. Start by cleaning the crate. A simple brush to remove dirt, maybe a light sanding if the surface feels rough. You can leave it bare and weathered for a rustic look, or paint it with a soft outdoor color, sage green, dusty blue, or warm terracotta. If you'd like to protect the wood, a quick coat of outdoor sealant will do the trick. Turn the crate on its side or upside down depending on how tall you want your table. You can even stack 2 crates together if you need more height or want extra storage space. Some folks like to add small wheels to the bottom to make it easier to move, especially helpful if lifting is hard on your back or knees. Top it with a tray, a pot of herbs, or a book you've been meaning to finish. A pitcher of lemonade on a summer afternoon. A candle as dusk falls. Whatever makes the space feel like you. This little table becomes more than just a place to set things. It becomes part of your garden rhythm, a spot for quiet mornings, gentle conversations, or simply sitting in stillness. And every time you rest your hand on its surface, you'll remember this table was once forgotten. Just wood and nails. Now it's part of your story. A garden doesn't need grand furniture. It needs soul. And nothing has more soul than something made with care using what you already have. Because beauty isn't found in the price tag. It's found in how it makes you feel. There's a certain kind of peace that comes from sitting behind a soft curtain on a breezy day. The way the fabric sways just slightly, catching the light fluttering like a gentle sigh. If you've ever wished your porch or patio felt a little more like a secret garden, a place tucked away from the world, then this project is for you. You don't need fancy fabric or sewing skills, just an old bed sheet or 2 and a bit of imagination. Start by finding some light-colored sheets you no longer use. White cream, pale blue, or floral prints all work beautifully. Wash them and let them dry in the sun. They'll smell like a summer morning by the time you're ready to hang them. To create your curtain, you can string a basic clothesline tension rod, or even use outdoor curtain wire between 2 porch posts or trees. If reaching high is difficult, ask someone to help with the setup so you can focus on the fun part. Now for the hanging. The easiest way is to use clothespins or curtain rings with clips. Just clip the top edge of the sheet every few inches and let it hang loose and flowing. If you'd like a more finished look, fold the top over before clipping. You can tie the sides back with ribbon twine or even strips of the same sheet. The transformation is instant. Suddenly, your porch becomes a sanctuary, shaded from the afternoon sun, kissed by every passing breeze. It creates privacy without closing you in and softness without spending a cent. It's perfect for reading, sipping tea, or simply listening to the wind chimes while you rest your feet. And when neighbors walk by, they'll smile. Not just because it looks lovely, but because it feels like something handmade, thoughtful, tender. A curtain made from an old sheet says, "This is my quiet space," and it invites the light to stay a little longer. In a world that so often rushes us forward, these soft walls help us stay still and simply enjoy the moment we're in. There are certain joys that never age. The laughter of grandchildren, the scent of blooming jasmine, the soft creak of a wooden swing beneath the shade of a tree. Even now, when our bones are a little slower and our days a little quieter, the gentle sway of a swing can bring us right back to something simple and sweet, the feeling of being held by the breeze. And the best part, you don't need a fancy porch or expensive setup to make it happen. Just a strong tree limb, a sturdy plank, and a little bit of heart. Start by finding a solid piece of wood about 2 feet long and at least 8 inches wide. An old shelf, leftover bench seat, or even a salvaged board from a past project will do just fine. Give it a light sanding to smooth the edges and surfaces, especially where hands and legs will rest. Drill 2 holes near each end of the board a few inches in from the sides. Then thread a length of thick, strong rope through each hole and tie secure knots underneath to hold the seat in place. The other ends of the rope will need to be tied around a sturdy horizontal tree limb or a solid beam if you're hanging it from a porch or pergola. If climbing ladders is difficult, ask a family member or neighbor to help with the hanging. You only need to set it once, and then it's ready, waiting patiently for you to return to it again and again. Keep the swing low to the ground, just enough to move gently without lifting your feet too high. Add a cushion or folded towel for comfort if you'd like. Sit with a cool drink. Watch the butterflies. Let the world slow down around you. It's not about how high you swing anymore. It's about the rhythm, the pause, the soft creak of wood and rope in the afternoon light. Because joy doesn't retire with age. It just grows quieter, deeper, and a simple swing under a tree can bring it all rushing back, one gentle sway at a time. Sometimes the best way to add life to a small garden is to go up, not out. Vertical gardening is a gentle solution for those of us with limited bending or space. And one of the loveliest ways to do it is with hanging wooden tiers. If you've got a few spare boards in the garage or left over from an old project, you're already halfway there. These tiered shelves hung from rope create space for small potted herbs, trailing flowers, or even garden trinkets, all floating gracefully in the air. Start by gathering 2 or 3 boards each around the same width. Soft woods like pine or cedar work best, but anything you have on hand will do. Give them a light sanding to smooth the surface and corners. Then in each corner of every board, drill a small hole for the rope to pass through. Cut 4 equal lengths of thick rope, 1 for each corner of your tiered shelf. Thread the rope through the holes in the bottom shelf first, tying a knot underneath each hole to hold it steady. Then move upward, repeating the process for the next board. Space them far enough apart to fit small pots or decorations between levels. Once all boards are in place and knots are secure, bring the 4 rope ends together and tie them at the top into one sturdy loop. You can now hang the whole piece from a strong tree limb, a porch beam, or a heavy-duty hook. This project doesn't require bending or heavy lifting, just slow, steady hands. If threading the rope is tricky, rest between steps. There's no rush in a garden like this. Once your wooden tiers are hung, add small planters of mint thyme or trailing ivy, or use it to display stone seashells or painted garden signs. As the breeze flows through the whole piece, sways slightly like nature's own, mobile, peaceful, and alive. And every time you pass it, you'll smile not just at the plants, but at what you've created. Something useful, something beautiful, and entirely your own. Because when we lift things up, even in small ways, we lift ourselves too. There's a certain kind of music that only the garden knows: the rustle of leaves, the call of a distant bird, the soft clink of glass in the wind. It's a quiet, healing melody, and with just a few old bottles and a little creativity, you can add your own gentle notes to the air. Glass bottle wind chimes are a beautiful way to upcycle what might otherwise end up in the recycling bin. Whether it's a wine bottle from a holiday dinner, an olive oil bottle from your kitchen, or a soda bottle with a pretty tint, each one can become a piece of peaceful music hanging in your garden. If you're comfortable using a glass cutter, you can slice the bottoms off the bottles to create open tubes that chime softly when touched by the breeze. But if tools aren't your thing, or you prefer a simpler method, you can leave the bottles whole and decorate them instead. Start by choosing a few bottles in different colors and shapes. Clean them well and peel off any remaining labels. You can paint them with glass paint, wrap them in twine, or even glue on small beads or charms. Each bottle becomes its own little artwork, glinting in the sunlight. Next, find a sturdy piece of driftwood, a thick branch, or even an old rake head to serve as your base. Use strong twine or wire to hang each bottle from the wood, spacing them so they can move freely. If using full bottles, tie securely around the neck. If using cut bottles, thread the wire through drilled holes or special bottle chime kits available online. Hang your creation from a porch beam, tree limb, or garden hook anywhere the wind can reach it. As the breeze passes through, the bottles will sway gently and chime against one another. Not loud or jarring, but soft like whispers from a memory. It's music you feel more than hear. And perhaps best of all, every time those bottles sing, they remind you even something once empty can still bring beauty and joy. Like us, they are not finished, only beginning again in a new way. Some drawers hold more than clutter. They hold stories, old keys from houses we loved, sheds we built, or drawers that once held baby socks and wedding photos. We may no longer know what some of them opened, but we know they once mattered. Instead of keeping them hidden, why not let them speak again? Vintage key wind chimes are one of the most sentimental and soothing projects you can make for your garden. Each key becomes a soft note in a wind-spun song, a tune carried by time. Begin by gathering a handful of old keys. If you don't have enough tucked away, they're often easy to find at flea markets or thrift stores for just a few cents a piece. The more varied the shapes and sizes, the better. You'll also need some fishing line or twine and a base to hang them from a sturdy tree branch, a piece of driftwood, or even an old metal coat hanger bent into shape. Cut several lengths of twine or line, each one a bit longer than the last, so the keys will hang at different heights. Tie one key to the end of each string and then fasten the other end to your base, spacing them out so they can swing freely. If your hands aren't as nimble as they used to be, consider using larger beads or knots to help grip while tying. Once your keys are all attached, hang your wind chime from a hook or tree limb in a spot where the breeze can find it. As the wind moves through the keys, we'll gently knock against one another, making a soft tinkling sound, subtle and peaceful, like distant laughter or whispered memories. There's something deeply moving about hearing that quiet music drift across the garden. It's the sound of history, your history given new life. Each key no longer lost, but found again in purpose and beauty. Because in every season of life we can choose to let go, or to make something meaningful with what remains. And this little melody, it's proof that even forgotten things can still sing. There's something charming about giving old kitchen tools a second life in the garden, especially the kind that once helped feed your family. Maybe it's a metal colander that drained Sunday pasta for years, or held rinsed berries from the market. It might be rusted now or missing a handle, but it still has something to offer. Colanders, with their built-in drainage holes and sturdy shape, make perfect hanging planters. Lightweight, cheerful, and full of personality, they add a touch of farmhouse whimsy to any porch or fence. Start by choosing a colander. Metal works best, but even plastic ones can be used with care. Give it a good cleaning. If you like color, feel free to spray paint it with an outdoor safe paint in soft blue, mint green, or a rusty red. Or leave it as is to showcase the patina of age. Next, line the inside to keep the soil from falling through. You can use coconut coir burlap, an old dish towel, or even a coffee filter, just enough to hold in the dirt while still allowing for drainage. Fill it with potting soil and plant something simple. Trailing petunias, pansies, strawberries, or herbs like mint and thyme work beautifully. The plants will cascade gently over the sides as they grow, creating a full, lush display that looks like it belongs in a fairy tale. To hang your colander, thread twine chain or strong ribbon through the handles or around the rim in 3 or 4 evenly spaced points. Gather the ends together and tie them securely, forming a loop to hang from a hook tree branch or pergola beam. Once it's hung, step back and smile. That once forgotten kitchen tool is now home to something living, blooming, and entirely new. And every time you water it or see a bee dipping into the petals, you'll remember usefulness doesn't end when something's worn. Beauty doesn't disappear when something's old. It just changes shape. From kitchen helper to garden delight, your colander has become part of a new story, one of renewal, creativity, and gentle transformation. There's something special about an old teacup, delicate, chipped, perhaps a little faded from years of sunlight on the windowsill. It might have been part of a set long gone or a thrift store find you simply couldn't pass up. And while it may no longer serve your morning tea, it can still serve something else. A gentle invitation to the birds. Turning a teacup into a hanging bird feeder is one of the sweetest ways to bring life and movement to your garden. It's simple, charming, and full of quiet purpose. Start with a teacup and saucer. Mismatched is perfectly fine, even preferable. You'll also need a bit of strong adhesive like waterproof ceramic glue and some twine or wire for hanging. Begin by gluing the teacup to the saucer at a slight angle, as if it's just been tipped to pour. Let the glue set fully, usually a few hours or overnight, until it feels sturdy to the touch. Then carefully drill small holes in the saucer if you can, or wrap strong twine or wire around the handle and under the saucer to form a secure hanging base. Once you've attached the hanger, fill the teacup with birdseed. Hang your feeder from a tree limb, a shepherd's hook, or a porch beam, anywhere that offers a bit of shelter and a good view. Then wait. Before long, you'll notice little visitors, sparrows, finches, maybe even a curious chickadee stopping by for a snack. And while they flutter and peck, you can sit nearby, teacup in hand, enjoying your own quiet moment of peace. It's a lovely exchange. You provide a small offering, and nature gives you presents, beauty, and song. And perhaps most comforting of all, that old teacup, once forgotten at the back of a cabinet, is now part of something joyful, something alive. Just like you. In your hands, even the tiniest things find purpose again. And your garden becomes not just a space for plants, but a sanctuary of second chances. As the sun sets and the garden begins to hush, there's a softness that settles over everything. The breeze calms, the birds find their rest, and in that golden hour, a warm flicker of candlelight can make the world feel like it's exhaling alongside you. Hand-poured candles in old jars or mugs are one of the simplest ways to bring that quiet magic to your outdoor space. You don't need fancy molds or special equipment, just a few leftovers from around the house and a little time. Start by gathering your containers. Mismatched teacups, jelly jars, old tins, or even small glass bowls all work beautifully. The more varied, the more charming. If there's a mug that holds a memory, a chipped one from your first apartment, or a vintage find you never quite used, this is the perfect chance to let it shine again. Next, melt down some wax. You can use store-bought soy wax or beeswax pellets, or recycle the ends of old candles by gently melting them in a double boiler. Add a few drops of essential oil if you like lavender for calm, lemon for clarity, or cinnamon for warmth. While the wax melts, place a wick in the center of each jar. You can buy pre-waxed wicks with a metal base at most craft stores, or simply tie a string to a pencil and lay it across the top to hold the wick upright while pouring. Carefully pour the melted wax into your containers, leaving a bit of space at the top. Let them cool undisturbed for a few hours. Once set, trim the wick, light it, and let the glow begin. Place your candle jars along garden paths, on a table for evening tea, or near your favorite sitting spot. The flickering light adds a sense of warmth and wonder that no electric bulb can match. And best of all, these little lights remind you that even scraps, bits of old wax, forgotten cups can come together to create something whole, something beautiful. In the quiet of twilight, your garden doesn't just bloom with flowers. It blooms with care. And in every small flame, a whisper, you still create light. There's something wonderfully grounding about the contrast between natural softness and structured shapes. In a garden filled with curving vines, fluttering leaves, and gentle blossoms, a little touch of geometry. Clean lines, angular silhouettes can feel like poetry and balance. Geometric candle holders, especially the kind made from wire or metal frames, offer just that kind of quiet elegance. And the best part, you don't need to buy them new. In fact, some of the most striking holders come from upcycled odds and ends, things like old lampshade frames, wire baskets, or even hanging plant holders that have lost their liners. Start by scouting your shed, thrift store, or garage for interesting metal shapes. Look for open frames in triangle, diamond, hexagon, or cube forms. If they've rusted a bit or the paint's worn thin, that only adds to the charm. You can give them a fresh coat of matte black gold or soft white spray paint, or leave them rustic and aged. Once dry, simply place a small candle or battery-powered LED tea light in the center. For open designs, you can rest the light on a small tile saucer or even a flat stone to catch any wax. If bending is tricky, set them on tables or shelves at waist height so you can arrange them comfortably. Scatter these holders across your garden table, line them along a porch railing, or cluster a few together near your reading chair outdoors. As dusk falls and the light begins to glow, you'll see shadows dancing through the frames, delicate patterns spilling out across the wood, the ground, or the nearby flower pots. There's a peacefulness to it, a feeling that something modern has settled gently into something timeless. And it's not about impressing anyone, it's about how it makes you feel. Because when you place something with care, even just a bit of candlelight inside a wire frame, it turns into more than a decoration. It becomes intention, it becomes mood, it becomes yours. In a world that rushes and replaces, choosing to repurpose is its own kind of quiet rebellion. A way of saying, I still see the beauty in what remains. Some of the most beautiful touches in a garden setting aren't the big show pieces. They're the quiet, handmade details that turn an ordinary afternoon into something just a little more special. That's exactly what these dip-dyed fabric placemats bring to the table: gentle color, soft texture, and a whisper of creativity that says, I made this. If you have a few plain cotton napkins, placemats, or even fabric scraps tucked away in a drawer, you're already well on your way. And if not, you can often find old linens at thrift shops for just a few cents each. Even lightly stained pieces work beautifully here. The dye gives them new life and hides imperfections. Start by preparing a simple dye bath. You can use store-bought fabric dye in a color you love, or make a natural version using ingredients from your kitchen like tea beet juice or turmeric. Fill a bucket or bowl with warm water, add your dye, and stir until it's fully dissolved. Fold or roll your fabric pieces however you'd like. You can dip just the edges, fold them accordion style, and dip the ends or submerge them halfway for a soft, fading ombre effect. There's no wrong way, only what pleases your eye. Let the fabric soak for a few minutes or longer if you want deeper color. Then lift them out, squeeze gently, and lay them flat to dry. The result? A set of placemats that look like they were brushed by a summer sunset, gentle muted and one of a kind. Once dry, press them flat with an iron if you'd like. Then set your outdoor table with your new creations. A small vase of wildflowers, a teacup, a favorite book, and suddenly you're not just having lunch. You're hosting a little moment of beauty. These placemats aren't meant to be perfect. They're meant to be loved. Stained with lemonade, kissed by crumbs, used again and again with the same care that made them. Because handmade things carry the imprint of our hearts, and every meal feels warmer when set on something touched by your own hands. Simple, soft, yours. There's a certain kind of magic that only appears when the sun begins to set. The world softens, the colors fade to amber and gray, and everything feels just a little more sacred. In these quiet moments, string lights hung gently between trees can transform your garden into something dreamlike. A place of peace, reflection, and soft joy. And you don't need anything elaborate or expensive to create that feeling. Just a simple strand of lights, a few hooks or nails, and a pair of willing trees. Start by choosing a spot that feels special to you. Maybe it's the path to your bench, the view from your kitchen window, or a little corner where you like to sit with a book. If you have 2 trees close together, or a tree and a porch post, that's all you need to create a canopy of light. Use solar-powered string lights if possible. They're lightweight, energy efficient, and you won't have to worry about plugs or extension cords. They charge during the day and begin to twinkle automatically at dusk. You can find them at hardware stores, dollar stores, or online for just a few dollars a strand. To hang them, gently wrap the lights around the trunk or use small outdoor safe nails or hooks to secure them at eye level or higher. Let the lights drape loosely from one anchor to the next, forming graceful arcs in the air. Don't worry if the line sags or twists, it only adds to the charm. Once night falls, step outside and take in the scene. The lights will cast a soft glow over your garden beds, your path, your chairs. You may hear the sound of crickets, the rustle of leaves, maybe even the distant chirp of a sleepy bird. It's not just light you've hung, it's atmosphere, a mood, a message to yourself that says this space matters. And in a world that often pushes us towards speed and noise, there's something powerful about choosing instead to sit quietly under a strand of gentle lights and simply be. Because your garden is more than a place, it's a feeling. You've probably held one 100 times, a simple tin can once filled with soup or beans, now empty and waiting by the sink. Most of us rinse it, toss it in the recycling, and never think twice. But what if that humble can could become something beautiful, something glowing and magical? With just a little time and care, tin cans can be transformed into charming garden lanterns, each one holding a flicker of warmth that turns your nighttime garden into a quiet wonderland. Start by gathering a few empty cans. Any size will do: soup cans, coffee tins, or even those tall tomato juice containers. Peel off the labels, wash them thoroughly, and remove any sharp edges with a bit of sanding or a gentle file. Here's a helpful trick: fill the cans with water and place them in the freezer overnight. Once frozen, the ice gives the can enough structure to keep it from bending as you work. Now, using a small nail and hammer, gently punch holes into the sides of the can in whatever pattern you like. You can create stars, hearts, swirls, or even initials. There's no need for perfection, just a rhythm, a little tap at a time. The ice will melt afterward, and you'll be left with a sturdy, perforated lantern shell. Once dry, you can paint the outside with soft metallics, earthy colors, or leave them rustic. If you like a little shimmer, a dab of gold or copper spray paint gives them a lovely antique glow. Drop a small tea light or battery-powered candle inside and set them along garden steps, tables, or the edge of a path. The candlelight will shine through the holes, casting delicate patterns on the ground around them like fireflies frozen in a dance. These lanterns are simple, quiet, beautiful, and they remind us that even things meant to be thrown away can still shine. Just like us, they've served a purpose and still have more to give. Because when you light up the night with your own hands, you're not just making lanterns, you're making peace. Every once in a while, we come across a piece of furniture that's past its prime, a dresser missing a leg, a nightstand with a wobbly top. But before you haul it to the curb or let it gather dust in the shed, take a look at the drawers. Because hidden in those worn wooden boxes is the perfect home for a blooming little garden. Old drawers make wonderful planter boxes. They're already the right shape, they're easy to move, and they bring a story with them, the kind of quiet character you just can't buy new. Start by choosing a drawer or two. Maybe you have an old one already, or you'll find one at a thrift shop or estate sale. The more weathered, the better. Chipped paint, faded wood, even an old knob left in place can add charm. If the wood seems raw or fragile, you can give it a quick coat of outdoor sealant or line the inside with plastic sheeting to protect it from moisture. Just poke a few holes in the bottom for drainage, or drill them yourself if you're able. If that's not possible, add a layer of gravel or pebbles before your soil to help with water flow. Fill the drawer with rich potting soil and plant whatever brings you joy. Bright marigolds, soft pansies, herbs like basil and mint, or even a collection of succulents if watering isn't easy. You can rest the drawer directly on a porch step, place it on a bench, or even raise it on bricks for easier access. If you're feeling creative, paint the drawer in cheerful colors, stencil a floral design, or write a little message across the front. Something like "Bloom here" or "Nana's garden." But you don't have to decorate it at all. Let the plants do the talking. Every time you walk past, you'll see a bit of life growing out of something old. A drawer that once held socks or photos now holds beauty, warmth, and new beginnings. And maybe that's the loveliest kind of upcycling, not just giving an object a new job, but letting it bloom alongside you year after year. There's something regal about ivy. The way it climbs, curls, and wraps itself around whatever stands still long enough, turning the ordinary into something quietly elegant. And with a little imagination, even a forgotten piece of metal can become a graceful tower wrapped in green. That's where this project begins, with a touch of ivy and a bit of wrought iron. If you've ever come across an old plant stand, a tall metal candle holder, or even the skeletal frame of a broken floor lamp, don't throw it away. These pieces, though bent or rusty, are perfect for building a vertical garden sculpture, a living tower of vines that adds height, texture, and a bit of magic to your space. Start by brushing off the dust and giving the frame a quick cleaning. You can leave the rust for a vintage look, or give it a coat of outdoor spray paint in black, bronze, or white to match your garden's feel. Let it dry completely. Once ready, place the structure into a large planter or directly into a garden bed. Anchor it firmly so it won't tip, using bricks, gravel, or potting soil. Then choose your plant. English ivy, morning glories, sweet peas, or any trailing vine will do. Plant at the base and gently guide the first tendrils up the frame, using soft twine or garden clips to help them start. With time, they'll climb on their own, weaving through the iron like lace. You won't need to bend or kneel often for this one. It grows upward, not outward, and can be tended from a standing position. As weeks pass, the green will fill in, leaves tumbling over each other, creating a lush, living sculpture. It becomes not just a support for plants, but a quiet presence in your garden, one that draws the eye up and invites you to pause. It's a reminder that beauty doesn't need to shout, that even something rusty and forgotten can rise again, wrapped in life. In your hands, a frame once headed for the trash becomes a tower of grace and proof that growth always finds a way. Every garden has its own personality. Some are wild and whimsical, others are soft and traditional. And then there are those corners, perhaps a quiet ledge or a clean patio nook, that beg for something a little more modern, a little more refined. That's where these geometric planters come in. You don't need to be a designer or spend a fortune at a garden center to enjoy that sleek, contemporary look. With just a few old pots and a little paint, you can transform simple containers into elegant geometric accents that bring a fresh breath of style to your space. Start by gathering your pots. Clay, ceramic, or even plastic will work. They don't have to match. In fact, different sizes and shapes can add to the charm. Give them a quick wipe to remove dirt and dust. If they're already painted or glazed, a light sanding will help the new paint stick better. Choose a palette that suits you: soft grays, creamy whites, deep greens, or muted blues. These natural tones pair beautifully with leafy plants and add a calm, polished touch. Use painter's tape to mark off triangles, stripes, blocks, or angles. Then fill in the shapes with matte acrylic or outdoor safe paint. Let the first color dry before moving to the next to keep your lines crisp. Don't worry about perfection. These planters are about feeling balanced, not precise. Even a bit of unevenness adds to the handmade beauty. Once dry, place your new geometric planters where they can shine, perhaps by a bench clustered on your front steps or lined along a patio edge. Fill them with ferns, grasses, succulents, or seasonal blooms. Their structured design will contrast beautifully with the softness of nature. And every time you pass them, you'll feel a quiet kind of pride. Because you didn't just decorate. You created something modern from something old. You turned leftovers into loveliness. It's a reminder that sophistication doesn't have to be expensive and style doesn't need to be loud. Sometimes all it takes is a little paint, a steady hand, and the courage to try. Clean lines, fresh colors, timeless heart. There's something undeniably comforting about terracotta pots. Their warm, earthy color, their weight in your hands, the way they quietly hold whatever you place in them, a seedling, a bloom, a memory. But sometimes, even the most beloved staples need a little refresh. A gentle touch of texture, a splash of personality. That's where rope-wrapped terracotta pots come in. This project is simple, satisfying, and easy on the hands, the kind of craft you can do at a table with a cup of tea and your favorite music playing softly in the background. And when it's finished, each pot becomes its own cozy little statement piece. Start with any old terracotta pot, new or aged, chipped or stained, it doesn't matter. In fact, the more character it has, the better. Choose a rope or thick twine that makes you smile. You might prefer a soft, neutral tone or maybe something more colorful and playful. Begin at the base or wherever you'd like your wrap to start. Add a small dab of hot glue or outdoor craft adhesive, then gently press the rope in place. Slowly wrap it around the pot layer by layer, gluing as you go to keep it secure. You can cover the entire pot, create a wide band in the middle, or wrap just the rim like a little hat. Don't worry if it's not perfect, the slight irregularities give it charm. Once wrapped, you can leave the rope plain or add a touch of detail, a tied bow, a little wooden button, or even a tiny tag with a handwritten plant name. Now fill the pot with something green. Maybe a cheerful daisy, a sprig of lavender, or a spill of ivy. Place it on a porch step windowsill or garden table. Even just one adds a sense of warmth and hand-touched care to your space. And as you admire your work, you'll remember you didn't throw the pot away. You added to it, honored its history, gave it softness and soul. Just like life, really. Sometimes all we need is a bit of wrapping, a bit of love, and suddenly we're beautiful again. Sometimes it's the quietest details that speak the loudest. A weathered flower pot wrapped in burlap, a simple knot of twine, a soft fray at the edge of the fabric. It's not flashy or bold, but it has a kind of charm that makes you pause and smile because it feels honest. Handmade, real. Burlap-wrapped pots are one of the easiest and most rewarding garden projects you can do. They're perfect for adding a touch of rustic warmth to your patio windowsill or porch steps. And best of all, they don't require a single stitch. Start with any plain pot clay, ceramic, or even plastic. Give it a quick wipe to remove dust or soil. Then take a strip of burlap long enough to wrap around the outside. You can buy burlap by the yard at craft stores or reuse old potato sacks, coffee bags, or storage fabric you may already have on hand. Wrap the fabric snugly around the pot, securing it with a dot of glue or simply tying it in place with twine. Let the edges fray a little, that's part of the look. If you want, add a small accent, a dried flower, a wooden button, a fabric leaf, or a handwritten tag. Nothing too fancy, just a quiet note of personality. Place your wrapped pots wherever you need a little softness. Line them up on a stair step, tuck them into a garden nook, or give them as heartfelt gifts to neighbors or friends. They pair beautifully with small herbs, trailing vines, or compact blooms like pansies or violets. And because the fabric can be swapped out with the seasons, they can dress up your space all year long. This is a perfect sit-down project. No heavy lifting, no sharp tools, just fabric, twine, and a little time. And when you're done, you'll have something that doesn't just hold a plant, but holds a story. Because in your hands, even the simplest pot becomes a reminder that beauty doesn't need polish. It just needs presence. A little burlap, a little twine, and a whole lot of heart. Sometimes the grandest joys come in the smallest containers. A single bloom on a windowsill. A quiet bowl of green on the coffee table. A miniature garden tended gently and lovingly right at your fingertips. A mini succulent dish garden is the perfect project when your space is small, your energy is low, or you simply want to keep nature close. It's low maintenance, endlessly charming, and easy enough to create in one peaceful afternoon. Start with a shallow container, something wide, not deep. This could be a ceramic bowl, an old pie dish, a chipped teacup, or even a thrifted casserole dish. The more character it has, the better. If your container doesn't have drainage holes, just add a layer of pebbles at the bottom to help with water flow. Then add a scoop of cactus or succulent potting mix. It's light and airy, perfect for these little plants. Now comes the fun part, choosing your succulents. You can find small succulents at any garden center or even propagate your own from cuttings. Look for a variety of shapes and colors, maybe a rosette-style echeveria, a trailing string of pearls, or a plump little jade plant. Place the tallest plant off to one side, then nestle the others around it like a tiny landscape. To finish, sprinkle decorative stone shells or bits of moss across the top. You can even tuck in a small figurine, a bird, a fairy, a tiny bench. These small touches make the garden feel personal, almost like a secret. Water sparingly and place the dish in a bright spot with filtered light, a sunny windowsill, a patio table, or a quiet corner of your porch. And there it will sit week after week, a living sculpture, slowly growing, always there to meet your gaze with a touch of green and calm. This tiny garden doesn't ask for much. Just a little space, a little care, and your quiet presence. But in return, it gives a sense of peace, a gentle reminder that life, no matter how small, is always worth tending. Even in a dish, beauty can bloom. There's something so timeless, so deeply comforting about a mason jar filled with wildflowers. It doesn't try to be perfect. It doesn't need arranging by a florist's hand. It's just simple beauty plucked from the earth, placed in glass, and left to glow on the table like a memory in bloom. This is one of those little joys you can create in minutes, and yet it brings hours of warmth. A mason jar wildflower centerpiece is about presence, about seeing what's growing around you and celebrating it exactly as it is. Start with a clean mason jar. It can be clear or tinted smooth or textured, tall or squat. If you don't have a mason jar, a jam jar, pickle jar, or even an old glass bottle will do just fine. Wrap a little twine or ribbon around the neck if you like. Maybe tie on a tiny wooden tag or dried sprig for an extra touch. Now for the flowers. Take a gentle walk through your garden or down the roadside if it's safe and look for what's blooming. Daisies, lavender, Queen Anne's lace. Even a dandelion or sprig of mint can bring a bit of wild joy. Don't worry about matching colors or heights. Let it be casual. Let it be a little unruly. Once gathered, trim the stems to fit your jar and fill it with water. Arrange the flowers with your hands, not with rules. Let some lean to the side. Let others stand tall. What you're creating isn't a bouquet. It's a little story blooming in real time. Set the jar on a wooden tray, an old book, or directly on your garden table. It will catch the sunlight in the morning, brighten your lunch, and welcome you back at day's end. A tiny celebration of now. Because beauty doesn't have to be purchased. It doesn't need to last forever. Sometimes a jar full of wildflowers is enough to remind you that life is still blooming gently, quietly, right where you are. And all you have to do is notice. There's something peaceful about watching birds gather, the flutter of wings, the soft splash of water, the way they pause and look around before dipping their beaks. In those quiet moments, your garden becomes more than a space for plants. It becomes a refuge, a place where all living things, big and small, come to rest. And it doesn't take much to create that welcome. With just an old stool and a shallow basin, you can make a charming bird bath that feels like it's always belonged. Start by finding a stool. Maybe it's one that's seen better days with faded paint or a slightly uneven leg. Or maybe it's a plant stand, a milk crate, or a small wooden table that's no longer sturdy enough for heavy use. Wipe it clean, and if you'd like, give it a coat of outdoor paint or sealer to protect it from the elements. Next, look for a basin, an enamel bowl, a wide serving dish, or even the lid of an old casserole pot. The only requirement is that it's shallow enough for birds to bathe in safely and sturdy enough to hold water. No need to glue or fasten it down, just center it carefully on top of the stool or stand. To make it even more inviting, place a few smooth pebbles in the basin. Birds like to perch as they drink or bathe, and the stones provide grip and depth. Fill with fresh water and place your new bird bath in a shaded, quiet part of the garden. Try to choose a spot you can see from your favorite chair or kitchen window somewhere that lets you enjoy the show without disturbing the guests. In no time at all, you'll see visitors arrive. A sparrow, a finch, a robin shaking off droplets in the morning sun. And while they enjoy their sip or splash, you'll feel something inside settle too. Because when you create a space that offers care even to a creature as small as a bird, you're building more than decor. You're building peace, with waterwood and a little love. Sometimes the most magical creations begin with something broken. You've probably had it happen. A flower pot cracks in the cold or takes a tumble from the porch rail. The edge chips or the whole side splits open, and it's tempting to throw it away to see it as ruined. But what if that broken pot could become the beginning of a tiny world? A fairy garden is a place where imagination takes root. It's whimsical, miniature, and deeply personal. And a broken terracotta pot with its jagged edges and uneven layers makes the perfect foundation. Start by gathering the broken pieces of your pot, the main base, and any large shards that can be used to form tiers or walls. Nestle the pieces back into the base of the pot, stacking and leaning them in a way that forms small levels or pathways. There's no need for symmetry. In fact, the unevenness is what makes it feel alive. Once the structure feels steady, fill the spaces with potting soil. Add tiny succulents, bits of moss, creeping thyme plants that stay small and thrive with a little maintenance. Tuck in decorative stones to form stairways or use bark to build a tiny fence. Now for the fun part, adding details. A miniature bench, a tiny door, a pebble path. Many garden centers or craft stores sell small fairy accessories, or you can make your own from twigs, beads, bottle caps, or seashells. Set your fairy garden in a quiet corner on your porch, a table, or tucked into a shady garden bed where passers-by might lean in for a closer look. And every time you see it, you'll remember what was once broken is now enchanting. This project isn't just about cuteness or creativity. It's a reflection that even in our most fractured moments, something beautiful can still grow. A broken pot didn't mean the end. It meant a new beginning. A story retold in miniature and moss with wonder tucked in every corner. Because sometimes the smallest gardens carry the biggest joy. There's a special kind of hope that lives in a seed, that quiet, steady faith that something small can grow into something beautiful. And when you start seeds indoors, it feels like you're holding a promise in your hands. A new season, a new beginning, right there in the soil. You don't need expensive trays or greenhouse kits to begin. All you need is something you likely already have: an old muffin tin. Maybe it's the one you used for blueberry muffins when the kids were young, or one you picked up at a yard sale and never got around to using. Maybe it's a little rusty, a little dented, all the better. That just means it's seasoned, full of stories, and ready for a new purpose. Start by giving the muffin tin a good wash and dry. If you'd like, you can paint the outside with cheerful colors or floral patterns. Use acrylic paint or outdoor safe spray paint. You might try soft pastels, sunny yellows, or a garden green, anything that makes you smile. It's optional, of course, but adding a little joy to the outside makes the inside feel even more special. Next, place a small stone or bit of gravel in the bottom of each muffin cup for drainage. Then fill each cup with seed starting mix, which is lighter and better suited for baby roots than regular potting soil. Now choose your seeds. Basil, lettuce, marigolds, zinnias, lavender, anything you love and want to watch come to life. Plant 1 or 2 seeds per cup, gently pat down the soil and give them a misting of water. Place the tin on a sunny windowsill or a bright corner. You can cover it loosely with plastic wrap to create a mini greenhouse just until the seeds sprout. And then, you wait. Water gently. Watch closely. And one morning you'll see it, a tiny green shoot pushing up through the dirt. A whisper of spring. A little miracle you helped make. This muffin tin once baked comfort. Now it grows it. Because no matter how small the vessel, there's always room for life to begin again. And so, dear friend, here we are at the end of our walk through 35 gentle, joyful ideas to bring your garden to life using things most people might overlook. A rusty can, a broken pot, an old teacup, a drawer missing its dresser. Each one once forgotten, now blooming with possibility. Maybe that's the truest kind of beauty, not the brand new, but the repurposed, the rescued. The things that have a little wear, a little history, and still so much more to give. In many ways, these objects mirror us. We've weathered storms, gathered years, collected a few chips and cracks along the way. And yet here we are, still creating, still growing, still finding ways to make the world around us softer, kinder, and more beautiful. You don't need a big budget to create a space you love. You don't need to bend or lift more than your body allows. What you do need, and what you already have, is heart, a sense of care, and the kind of imagination that turns trash into treasure, not with effort, but with love. Every planter you made, every path you decorated, every light you strung or jar you filled, it's all part of your story. A story of second chances. A story of blooming even after time has passed and seasons have changed. So if you found joy here today, even just a flicker, I hope you'll carry that into your own garden, your porch, your kitchen windowsill. And if a project inspired you or reminded you of something from your past, I'd love to hear about it. Truly. Share your favorite idea in the comments, or better yet, tell me what you've created lately from something old and dear. And if you'd like more peaceful, practical inspiration like this, feel free to subscribe. You're always welcome here. Until next time, keep planting gently, keep dreaming sweetly, and remember, nothing and no one is ever too old to bloom again. Happy gardening, dear friend.